Today we're going to talk about an interesting topic. Can pilots have tattoos in 2023? This is a question that has been asked many times by aspiring pilots, and the answer is not a straightforward one. So let's dive in and explore the topic further. Welcome back to Aviator Inspirations. My name is Yaro and I help take the mystery out of the aviation industry. I make these free videos to help future aviators save time and money, so consider subscribing. Pilots are responsible for the safety of passengers and crew members, and as such, they are held to high standards of professionalism and appearance. It's this appearance that airlines are trying to maintain, ensuring a high level of confidence from their passengers. Aviation is a very conservative industry, and since the 60s, this is what the general aviation has been trained to believe of what a pilot should look like. This is why the aviation industry has strict rules and regulations regarding the appearance of pilots and flight attendants, and this includes the topic of tattoos. In Canada and the United States, we don't have specific regulations that prohibit pilots from having tattoos. However, airlines do have guidelines on the subject. In general, pilots should not have any tattoos that could be considered offensive or distracting, and most airlines require pilots to cover any tattoos that are visible while wearing their uniform. This is again to ensure that the pilots present a professional appearance while on duty. So why the tattoo stigma? The history of tattoo stigma is complex and varies across different cultures and time periods. While tattoos have been a form of expression for thousands of years, they have not always been accepted or celebrated. The stigma surrounding tattoos can be traced back to the 18th and 19th centuries in Western society. At this time, tattoos were associated with criminality, and they were commonly used to mark prisoners and convicts. Tattoos were also associated with circus performers and sideshow attractions, which were considered lowbrow entertainment. In the 20th century, the stigma surrounding tattoos began to shift as tattooing became more popular among soldiers and sailors. Tattoos were often used to commemorate military service or to identify members of a particular unit. However, the stigma persisted in civilian society, and tattoos were still associated with criminality and deviance. In the 1960s and 70s, the counterculture movement helped to popularize tattoos among a wider audience. Tattoos became associated with rebellion and self-expression, and they were embraced by artists, musicians, and other creative types. However, tattoos were still not widely accepted in mainstream society, and many employers still had dress codes that prohibited visible tattoos. Fast forward to today, the stigma surrounding tattoos has begun to fade as tattoos have become more mainstream and accepted in society. Many people now view tattoos as a form of self-expression and art, and they are no longer associated solely with criminality or deviance. However, the stigma still exists in some areas of society, and some employers may still have strict dress codes that prohibit visible tattoos. In recent years, there has been a growing acceptance of tattoos in society, and the aviation industry is no exception. In fact, some airlines are beginning to relax their policies regarding visible tattoos. For example, in 2018, Air New Zealand announced that they would allow crew members to have visible tattoos as long as they were not on the face, neck, or hands. This was a significant shift in policy, and Virgin Atlantic also followed suit. They became the first UK airline to allow the cabin crew to show off visible arm tattoos while in uniform. These policy changes reflect a growing acceptance of tattoos in society and a recognition that tattoos do not impact a pilot's ability to perform their job safely. However, it's still important to note that these changes are still relatively new, and many airlines still have strict policies regarding tattoos. Again, these guidelines are in place to ensure a professional appearance and to maintain the safety and confidence of passengers. A visible tattoo could distract passengers or crew members, and in some cases it could be considered offensive. Therefore, it's important for pilots to consider these factors when deciding whether or not to get a tattoo and where on the body they're going to place it. The easiest place is of course on the torso, so even if you wear a short sleeve pilot shirt, you're going to comply with all policies. If you are just becoming a pilot and already have tattoos, you might face some challenges during your career, but it shouldn't be a deal breaker. More and more airlines are starting to adjust their grooming policies, and hopefully one day soon all of North America will get with the times. So far in Canada, Westjet and Air Canada allow visible but discreet tattoos. Other airlines like Porter and Flair still require pilots to cover visible tattoos while on duty. So let me know in the comments if you have tattoos and whether you faced any challenges in aviation. As always, if you have any other aviation related questions, leave them down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.